Live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the Lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the Lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Hey, everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. On the other side of the glass is my partner, Mark Wages, and you are on the Lifeboat. Hey, everybody. I had the weekend, I was just telling my bobble-headed partner, I had a weekend that would absolutely wear out anyone on the planet. You ever go to one of those yard sales where there's just a gazillion people there? Well, I was that yard sale. We did it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from like 6 in the morning until deep into the afternoon, and nothing will wear you out like that. I'm telling you, I didn't think it was going to be that big a deal, and it has just absolutely laid me flat. Okay, so before we get rolling, our friend Leslie is going to be coming out of the wilderness, right? He lives way out alone in the middle of, nowhere. And he's going to be coming down the hill tomorrow. We just want some prayers for him. He's going to be driving a very big, big vehicle. So thoughts and prayers, please, going out to him. The next thing, people, this is huge. If you've been on the Lifeboat for a really, really long time, then you'll remember that last year at this time, thank you, Brandon. Last year at this time, we had a birthday celebration. There are 2 people on the Lifeboat that were born on the same day in the same year, which is really kind of cool if you think about it. 2 people who meet and have been on the planet the exact same number of days, right? Lived through all the same kind of stuff, and they're great. Chi-Chi has been here since the very first day that I fired up the Lifeboat. I mean, day 1, before we even had a clue what we were doing. And Fiona found us in August, so we had been about 3 or 4 weeks up. But both of them have just been here forever. So happy birthday to Chi-Chi. We love you, Chi-Chi. And happy birthday to Lady Fiona Crispin, who, if you've been on the boat long enough, you probably think, that's Linda. and you'd probably be right. Okay, people. Yeah, we love you, Fee. Happy birthday. If you got to look at the thumbnail, and by the way, if you were here last year, you know what this is? Candy corn. Back into that season, people.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we had big conversations over that, didn't we?
Yes, I'm a big fan of candy corn. Okay, people, if you saw the thumbnail, yesterday we started talking about how you approach people, right? The concept of if you're really trying to save somebody, how do you go about doing it? And one of the things that someone emailed me about basically said, what if, you go up to somebody and they're not addicted and you just kind of think they are. And it occurred to me that it would probably be a pretty good idea to go over some of the symptoms of some of the different parts of addiction. And the reason is, They're not always the same from one person to another. So there's a decent chance that some of these you're familiar with, but you might not be familiar with all of them, and it's really pretty vital stuff. Sorry, people, I just got to mute this phone. Yeah, or it'll make really loud noises the whole time. So as you start to evaluate this, it really is an issue. If you go up to somebody who is, I mean, maybe they're doing drugs, but they are not addicted. You can really drive a good rift between you and a friend. I mean, it can really come off wrong, even if you do this is coming from a place of love. I'm just worried about you. A lot of times, that may not be the best thing. But if you start looking at people, best friends, relatives, whatever, there are going to be some dead giveaways that let you know that something's not right, right? That drugs have begun to take a hold on that individual. And it's, let's face it, we all know a lot of people that use, right? I mean, statistically speaking, a ton of this country uses. Right now, 10% of everybody in America above the ages of 12, right, is addicted to something. I mean, that's a stone cold fact. It's so this is really kind of a big deal. But if you start to watch these individuals, you're going to see some dead giveaways. The loss of interest in things that meant a crap load to them. It's one of the most depressing things to see you'll ever come across. I think I've told the story on the boat before. I had a friend I used to ski with and spend a lot of time in when I lived out in Salt Lake City, and he was a rock climber. And just steadily, as he started to get more and more into dope, all of that fell off. He just didn't care about it anymore. He stopped, stopped buying equipment, stopped taking care of equipment, and pretty soon after that, the equipment started to get sold. If you see someone giving up on something that meant the world to them for the longest period of time, if they're just an absolute football fanatic and the NFL season rolls around and they don't want to have anything to do with it, it's not a hard and fast rule that means they're getting high, but very often it means that something's not right. Now, you want to look at these in total, right? One of these doesn't mean run up to the person and say, hey, you know what? You don't seem like you're doing as much of this anymore. Are you addicted to drugs? You kind of want to look at all of these and get the general, overall score, so to speak. Because if you got someone in half of these things, you can easily identify in them, then there's a really good chance it's drug related. The second one is blowing off relationships, or in many cases, just being a jerk. Either they're going to get away from their significant other, whether it be a girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, husband, whatever. They're going to end up moving away from those people. But if they stick around, often they'll just become jerks. It's almost like they're trying to keep the loved one away from them so that they're not, observing them closely. But you see it an awful lot where they just start intentionally screwing up relationships. It's really a kind of a sad thing to watch, but it does happen all of the time. And then changes in work habits. Anybody that's knows anybody that really, really gets in deep with the addiction, very often they start missing work, or they start calling in late, start calling in sick, not showing up at all. Very often they're going to jump from one job to another. But if you start seeing employments, plaguing somebody with all kinds of things going wrong, and it's never been that way before, that's usually a pretty bad sign, because that's one of the things that will be ravaged big time by drug addiction. And everybody on the boat knows a story about that. I mean, you could all tell them till the end of time, because it just happens almost every time. Not every, but almost every time. You're also going to see them start taking risks. Now, when we were younger, they were talking about things like, putting your life in jeopardy, driving too fast, right? Driving when you're drinking, that kind of thing. It's one of those things that, you're lowering your inhibitions, right? And at the same time, you basically, you lose your I care about anything, right? The old I give a, you just lose that altogether and you give nothing. There's not one to give. You really don't care what's going on around you, because now it's a focus on one thing and one thing only, and that's the, getting the drugs. You're going to see sleep habits take a beating, right? This is something that, again, you see all of the time, because depending on what drug you're doing, you're either going to be spending way too much time awake or spending way too much time sleeping. But either way, it's still, what it's going to do is cause a chronic fatigue. And you'll see people who are just always run down. They always look like something is wrong. It should be a dead giveaway, just looking sick. And the last thing is secrecy. If you said to somebody, the whole time you've known them, they're going to get in the car. Hey, where are you going? Right? I'm going here. There's never anything about where someone's going or who they were with. And you'll just start to notice that the people become very evasive with questions, or out and out lie. And this is one of those things that really starts to, as we say all the time here, it's the fruit of addiction, right? Lies are one of those things that it's absolutely just going to come on. The more dope you're doing, the more lies you're telling. It's just that simple. It's sad, but it's true. So those are some of the things that you're going to see in terms of habits and things that are being that you can observe. A lot of times the physical is huge too. Statistically speaking, right now in the US, if you're addicted to anything, you're more likely to be addicted to opiates by a landslide than anything else. This is a fairly recent development. This has not been like this always, but since the influx of all of that trash from the beast from the east, we've seen a real serious upswing. So a lot of the symptoms here will go across all lines, and some of them will be very specific to that, because it is right now probably the most prevalent. But one of the things you notice is eyes, right? Either really, really glassy, sometimes bloodshot, but there's always something that you notice in the eyes. And again, that could be a lot of other things. It could be tired. You want to look at these things in total again. Don't pick one thing out and determine that the person is abusing heroin or something like that.
I think that's a great point, Tommy, to focus on
think?
for a second. Yeah, it's not like we're going to stop and give them a sobriety test. We're not going to say, hey, you need to come in here and walk this line and touch your nose and all that stuff. It's going to be one of those, but you really do need to look for what he's talking about here, because anyway.
The sobriety test, bust out the breathalyzer.
Yeah.
And again, very similar to what we were talking about before. These people are always sick. And very often it's because it wears down the immune system. And the rest of the time, it's lying to people. Because the one go-to lie that human beings can always say is, oh, you know what, I was sick. And it is probably the most abused lie in the entire world. But it's one of those things that you're going to hear all the time. Some of the times it'll be real. You're also going to see some weird injuries, right? And infections. Infections are something you end up with a whole lot of when you're really abusing dope, even if you're not using needles. But if you're using needles, forget about it. But what it does to, lower the immune system and all that, abscesses, things like just really horrible skin conditions. And again, be looking for all of this. Don't be looking for any of it. But the hair, skin, and teeth. And I'm not talking about a person like the commercials that you see when they talk about meth. With from the very beginning, you're just going to see a change in hygiene, right? So teeth aren't rotting out of people's heads yet or any of that stuff, unless they've been doing this a really long time. But you're going to just see a change in hygiene. My partner talked about this last night, and it really makes a ton of sense. One of the first things that people let go is the shower, and taking care of yourself and caring about your appearance. That just sort of goes away. Sad but true.
It's kind of, isn't it kind of like a codependent, or not really a codependent, but kind of like a co-depression, drug use type of thing, kind of wrapped up into one?
Almost always, addiction is brought on by or is living in the exact same body at the same time as some kind of a depressive, condition, right? Or some kind of, something's going on psychologically. We don't always just get high because it's fun to get high. Not saying that doesn't happen, and then that people can progress and end up addicted. Right. But more often than not, there's a reason that we do.
That's like what, the number one or number two thing for depression, like the hygiene thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, it's like the first thing you're going to see. Somebody just going to quit. They just give up. It's
And there's talk in the world of needle users, heroin addicts. Really. People who have really abused opiates. There was a thing for a long time. It's even been in a couple of movies where they would say that, you don't want to wash because that drug really does process out through the skin, and they there are a lot of people who believe wholeheartedly that if you don't shower, the drug is going to stay in the system a couple of more hours. And when it's you're either sick or you're well, there are people that just decide that that's something they're willing to go with.
That's
But
just
yeah, go ahead.
that's just kind of ridiculous to me to believe.
It's awful. It's
It-
what it is. It's absolutely awful.
Yeah, it does show how messed up you actually get yourself to when you are in that. You can't
Yeah.
see it. You really truly believe that, and you're doing whatever you can to keep that going for as long as you can. It's rough.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's absolutely rough. You're also going to see people start to use drugs. People who are addicted, you're going to catch from time to time, either in the act or, they go to get something out of their pockets and dope falls out. I mean, when you're addicted and you're doing, that much drugs constantly all of the time, it's one of those situations where, you're going to get found out. There's absolutely no way that you're not going to come across someone who's going to to have a pretty good idea of what's going on. And so once be looking for the abuse. And if it's somebody that drinks, you're going to see a serious change in their patterns. Or if there's somebody you get high with, 4 or 5 guys are getting together and they're doing a little coke, and one of them just starts doing it every single day of the week and starts buying more and more of it. And the next thing you know, he's calling and trying to sell things. That's another symptom you're going to see is things start to disappear. Very often the addicts, but not always just the addicts, right? I've been pretty honest on this channel that, at the end, I don't care if I was in a friend's house. I don't care where I was looking for something to steal because it had gotten to the point where, I was buying my life, 8 hours at a time, and it was costing hundreds and hundreds of dollars for that 8 hours. And, so,
It gets rough. You don't even realize you're there, and and that's the other thing that I would say too. You'll start seeing them. We've talked about this before. You'll start seeing them lie about things that matter about nothing. They're lying about things that just don't even matter, and it's because that they're so wired into that that's all they can do. They're lying all the time, consistently, and they
no question.
and the thing of it is they can't even see it. They can't.
No, when you're really in the life, you either don't see it or you don't care. I mean, there are people who are pretty aware of what they're doing, but the drug basically just makes it so that doesn't matter to you at all. Whether you're, whatever you're doing, you can justify in your own head. It's one of the really, sad but true. It's probably one of the strongest things going for that drug is that it just simply erases your memory. I mean, you talk about something that makes the addiction more difficult to deal with. Because as guilt starts to go, we've talked about this before. The more guilty you get, the more dope you do. The more dope you do, the guiltier you get, and it just becomes this never-ending chase. So one of the things you're going to see with your friends is the people they hang out with are really dramatically going to change. Very often, the friends they've had their whole life are no longer their friends because they know. I mean, if you hung out with a guy every day, all through high school, and you show up wasted on anything, he's going to look at you and go, dude, what are you doing? So we tend to get an entire new circle of friends, and that circle of friends is usually doing a lot of drugs, or drinking for people that are going to, bars or whatever. When the addiction really gets full blown, we go through a lot of friends. We don't want, the responsibility that comes with it, and we don't want to be called on our stuff. We've talked about this so many times. You're above all, your brain is trying to make sure you continue to do this stuff. As crazy as that may sound, it really is exactly the truth.
And you've talked about, we did shows in the past about, like our kids, what kind of things should we look for, like laying around the house, or maybe you talked about the cuff of their jeans, where there would be like black on their jeans where they're always wiping and those kinds of things.
Absolutely.
And I'm not sure if you want to talk about that for a minute or not.
Yeah, no, that is one of the things. Angel Wings, thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I really appreciate that.
Yes.
There are going to be Brandon Taylor. Thank you, Brandon, my friend. Really appreciate you. There are going to be things with every single type of drug that are dead giveaways. So more often than not, heroin was sold in balloons, and they're small, itty bitty, tiny balloons. But the the speed at which you try to get into these when you're sick. So what happens more often than not is you bite that off and it's gone. It's a teeny little rubber ball, and when someone's using, you'll find those. You're gonna find them all over the house. You're gonna find little square pieces of plastic because you take it right off the plastic and you do what you're gonna do. And more often than not, that's the end of it. For a lot of people, they're slumping over and they're unconscious for a little while, and you get up and those little pieces of paper get knocked all over the house. I've talked about this many times before. People that are when you do methamphetamine, more often than not, unless you're shooting it, you're going to be smoking it out of something that's made of glass. And often, unless you're really good at it, you're going to put an awful lot of carbon. It's going to build up. When you get a flame too close to anything like glass, it gets really, really dark, and it makes it difficult for addicts to see inside there and figure out how much is in there. So very often that just gets wiped on the bottom of their pants. Like, I've seen it so many times. And it's crazy because you look down at the person's gene, and the last inch is just covered. You constantly have to be messing with that thing and wiping it to try to, really figure out what you got going on. It's one of those dead giveaways. But every single drug is going to leave something like that. We talked about with weed, especially, for kids, that it just creates a lot of resin, right? Just for starters, it creates an awful lot of resin, and you get little burnt, pieces of grass. No matter how careful people are, those things tend to get around.
This is stuff that I didn't know when we met. 'Cause I never did the needles or anything like that. Mine was just strictly pills and sometimes a fentanyl patch here and there.
Right.
But this is, I think it's a great thing to talk about, because I'm sure there's others out there like me that, that have not been went to that life as far as needles and stuff.
Yeah, or just really sort of stayed in their lane. There are people who I'm pretty convinced that if I had found heroin as the first drug that I ever came across, I would never have done another one.
Yeah, I would agree.
I truthfully believe that, that everything stopped. Like, and I used to abuse stuff every single day. But the second that, I think when the chemical that really gets you, regardless of what your poison is, when that thing really gets you, you just,
I often said a lot after I got some help. If somebody would have told me that it was half the price and that it was a better high than a pill, I would have been the first one in line. Really, honestly, guys, I got blessed by not having that knowledge. It's crazy to say that. It really is, but it's the truth. And I think that a lot of, I would say kids a lot would probably fall into that category because they might not know, that's the other thing too. Me and you and our age group was brought up in an era where heroin was like the devil.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was the thing of after school specials.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And so, I think that did play a part in why I really didn't entertain all that. Because I remember being dope sick once. I call it dope sick. It's just being sick. And
Withdrawal.
Yeah, and that was the first time I did a fentanyl patch, because I called my friend up. I was like, hey,
you gotta help me.
Yeah, I'm sick, man. You got anything? He's like, well, I ain't got no pills, but I got this fentanyl patch. So I drove out to my job where because he worked with me, and I went out there and I got it like in the middle of the night, and he just looked at me. He said, "You ever done this before?" I was like, "No." And this is where the danger comes in, guys. I didn't care.
No,
I didn't.
Bit,
I can tell you right now, I did not care.
I believe that.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. I did not care how dangerous it was, but I did listen to him how he told me to do it, and even the way he told
something.
Yeah. And even the way he told me to do it, I look back on it, and it's like, because I know how those things are made. And even, because we've been talking about, pharmaceutical versus like street stuff. Even the pharmaceutical stuff, when you're talking like a patch or a strip, they have a hard time making it consistent across that strip. So,
that's why they tell you, don't cut these up.
And he told me that. He's like, listen, man, he said, cut this up into however many pieces he said. It was like a bunch too. It was like 12 or 14 or something. And, put it in your mouth or whatever. And I'm not trying to give a lesson on how to do that. It's just, what I'm saying is, it's such a small thing. You would think that it wouldn't do nothing to you, but
Right.
I am telling you, within like, and it was I
Almost instant.
almost didn't even like it.
Right.
It was like that intense for me. It was, yeah, it was something and I'd been sick before, so I know what like the lot it feels like, and it's the same stuff, right? So I know
Yeah.
I've been hit with that before multiple times because I was sick, but I just didn't put it together in my mind. But the difference was I was on the street now, and I didn't have nobody to help me,
Right.
so I was taking a huge chance, and I think that's probably why we're having this discussion now, because
300 people a day.
our loved ones are out there taking that chance all the time.
Yep.
Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to.
No, no, you're good. And as he brought up needles, uh, when people start using intravenous drugs, there was a cap that goes on the end of that syringe. It is orange, and there is a cap that goes to protect the plunger from getting anything on that side, which is just a clear plastic piece, about maybe a little less than a half an inch long, that just goes over, and it's connected by a couple of pieces of plastic, so you just tear it off. Those end up everywhere. I don't care how careful someone is, those are gonna end up. You're gonna find one in someone's car. You're gonna find one there's you just do too many of them. You know what I mean? I used to buy, pills three and four. I mean, syringes 300 or 400 at a time, and you just burn through them. And it's amazing how many places that stuff can end up in. But it's another one of those dead giveaway kind of things. But at this point, as we're talking through some of the things you can see in terms of the physical, at this stage, when someone is this far along, what you're going to be seeing is withdrawal sickness. It's going to happen, and as we talked about a little bit earlier, they're always telling people they're sick. It's something that they say all the time. But when you see them actually in the throes of it, it really is a very unique sick. Like the first time that you see somebody, in full blown withdrawal, you're probably not going to think this guy's got the flu, right?
Yeah,
It's usually pretty obvious stuff, especially because it's not just all of the symptoms. There's also that sort of jittery anxiety that they're everything is rapid fire, because all they can think about is getting out of the situation that they're
yep.
in, and it literally becomes them sort
They're
of running around.
they're like
Go ahead.
circling around in their mind. What can I do? How can I do to get what I need?
Yeah, and they're
And
fighting usually. Usually there's a part of the brain, demanding that you go and get this drug, and the other part of you is just sick to your stomach and saying, this is the day I'm going to quit. I honestly, I can't think of a day, especially in the last 5 or 6 years of using, where every single morning when I got up, I'd say, "This is it. This is the day I'm going to quit." I mean, I'm not exaggerating. It was an everyday thing, and by 10 or 11 o'clock, it would start. And like I was saying the other day, that what makes it so difficult is knowing you can turn it off. Right? I make a phone call.
it all
Um,
goes away for a
it
short
all
amount
goes
of
away. I
time.
don't have to deal with any of this pain. I don't have to deal with any of this discomfort. But you're going to see symptoms. Nose runs constantly, and I'll tell you again, this is another one of those reasons. This tripod is driving me nuts. It's another one of those reasons that it really is. It's going, everywhere, but where I want it to be. So yeah, the withdrawal sickness people. This is something that you're going to see, no matter how hard they want to try to protect, the image that they're trying to put up. It's just not going to happen. And you get runny noses, and it's essential that it's a bunch of these things, not just one, because people who are on medical assisted treatment very often have their nose runs constantly, and
Yes,
with,
yeah.
with some people it happens forever, right? So it's just another great example. People have hay fever, right? Eyes go really bloodshot, or they get really glassy, very often in spring, right? Or certain times of the year it gets worse than others. It's the reason that all of these things have to be taken in the totality, and it doesn't mean someone's going to have everyone, but if there's a lot of them, and you start to sort of put this together in your head, it's very often it sort of lays out a puzzle. You know what? He's been calling into sick, to work an awful lot lately. That just doesn't seem right. And the last time I saw him, he was telling me he was sick and wouldn't get off the couch. And you just start going, you know what, something's not right. And if you get that feeling, right? If you feel like, there's definitely something going on here, um, don't don't blow it off.
Yeah.
That kind of gut feeling. Number one, has saved a lot of people's lives, and number two, has made a lot of other people regret for the rest of their life that they didn't go to their friend and say, "Hey, you know what? You hear that story constantly." Honestly, I was planning on talking to him on Tuesday, and I got the phone call, Sunday night. People, the window is, it opens and it
Small.
shuts. He open on me every single morning. I promise you, I'm not exaggerating. In the last 6 years of my drug use, if somebody had showed up first thing in the morning and said, "I can get you clean and it's not going to hurt," I would have jumped in their car. I would have done whatever they asked me to do, man. I would have,
Yeah.
where do I go? What do I sign? The
Yeah.
every single morning the window would open, but it would close at about 10 when that pain started. So, it is one of those situations. A lot of times people say, well, they have to hit rock bottom. You'd be really surprised how long it takes some people to hit rock bottom and the damage that they can do to themselves in the process.
Yeah.
Your best bet is to create rock bottom, right?
Yes.
To show up there and talk to your friend and have him think to himself or herself, "I can't believe that he had to come and talk to me about this." And he's right, and he knows, and he's calling me on it, but he's throwing me a lifeline, right? Or she's throwing me a lifeline. I promise you, people, we're on the lifeboat. And if you throw somebody a life preserver, they're not going to push the thing away from you.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never met an addict that likes being an addict.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
And I would also mention here too that when you see somebody in that state of like withdrawal, they're dope sick or what have you, that is the point in time. Number one, the window's actually probably open a little bit there,
Right.
because they're wanting help of some sort. But if that help isn't offered to them, that is the most dangerous time for them to go out and get their drug. Because when they get that drug, they're going to dump what they can in their system.
Yeah, they're going to do as much of it as possible. But yeah, very often it's that's the shot that kills people. It's not something that builds up for, by the end of the day, you're doing your fifth shot and it's going to, no. I mean, it's usually the first one of the day. It's that first fix. It's the one that, that stops your heart. Although all bets are off with the stuff that's on the street now.
Exactly.
All bets are off. Yeah. All of the things that you could sort of take for granted with opiates in the past. No, I mean, they're unstable, right? And they're dangerous and they're killing so many people right now. It really is just, it's awful, but it's one of those things. Go ahead.
What would we look for like alcohol stuff? Do you have anything?
I'm just going to go like this. How am I doing? Did I get the lean down? A lot of the same things you're going to get with alcohol, right? In fact, I don't know if you've been on the boat any length of time, you probably remember Niall and, when we would have him on, and it was almost like, having two people that were addicted to very different substances, but had the exact same story. And listening to Niall and I talk about this, I think the takeaway for everybody was there's really huge similarities between what full-blown addiction, whether it's alcohol or whether it's opiates, the symptoms were almost identical. I mean, we were doing the same things. Now, the difference is going to be, really badly slurred speech, right? People who drink and it's very difficult for those individuals to not have an odor, right? I mean, alcohol is just, it has ketones, right? So even if you're not breathing, when you're starting to drink in that amount, whether you're blowing out on people, it literally leaches through the skin. You ever meet, one of those people that drinks and is just full on in the life, and you could just, the next day, it's not like you got something on your breath. It's like you're standing, over a bottle of gin. There's just that pungent, and that's real. I mean, that's one of those things that you're going to see. Now, if it's opiates, you're going to get, the two most probably characteristic things of opiates. Number one, it makes the nerve endings in people's bodies do really strange things because it's a painkiller, right? It starts to work on places on the body, and very often you get a guy that'll he'll rub his nose nonstop. Literally, sometimes you'll see people bleed or itch something, and there's usually some kind of a repetitive motion of something that they're doing with their body. It happens all of the time. It's one of those things, and then very often, normal people who are living a normal life don't fall asleep at 2:00 in the afternoon so hard that you have to wake them.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the nod starts to happen. And the longer that people are in, the deeper they're into that addiction, the more often that's going to start happening with people around. It's why the addict tends to withdraw from all their friends. They don't want to be around family. And if they have to be around family, they're going to make it an hour. And in that hour, they're going to spend about 15 minutes in the bathroom. It really becomes one of those situations where just looking at you is so difficult for the addict. The feeling they get looking at a room full of people who really seemingly have it all together. I don't know any addict that hasn't been there. Thanksgiving or something else, and you just walk in and you think to yourself, I literally am like the lowest of low.
Yeah.
My nieces and nephews are here.
Yeah.
I'm coming in obliterated on opiates. It really becomes one of those. It's a desperate life, people, and at the end of it, anything that somebody can do to throw a lifeline, right? If you're seeing the kind of symptoms that we're talking about, and it's also going to get into, in the very final stages, people, it almost gets scary, right? Because now, usually the addict has come to the conclusion that one of two things is going to happen. They're going to end up in prison or they're going to be dead. And it's painful to watch. You'll hear people talk about it as if, it's no big deal, but yeah, and I'm going to overdose. It's just a matter of time. And you hear people say stuff like that. It's distressing, but that's in the full progression. You're going to get wild mood swings, unbelievable mood swings. And it's a situation very often where, if they just got, the drug into their system, they're the happiest people in the whole world, right? They're usually telling you their plans. They're about to take over the world. Everything is fantastic. I got a job lined up for next Tuesday. And you see them 8 to 10 hours later, and it's Jekyll and Hyde, right? The person's talking about how no one's going to hire him, and every other word's an F-bomb. And, the mood swings are brutal. They really are, because you're going from, being completely sedated and having the mind drugged so that nothing is bothering it, to the exact opposite. And then throw in unbelievable body pain and cramping and all of the things that accompany that withdrawal. And the mood swings are vicious. And again, people, you don't see this in the beginning. In the beginning stages of addiction, there's a honeymoon period, where the addict they know that they shouldn't be doing it, but they're still talking themselves into that. It's no big deal. Like, I'm a little out of control now, but when summer comes around, I'm going to stop. And it's that period of time where you still believe it's possible to walk away from the drug.
Yep.
Right. You just haven't learned.
Yeah. It's definitely that's why we're trying to continuously go back to that. And you can never achieve that ever again. It's crazy how an addict's mind works.
The chase.
But yeah, it's the chase. And that's probably, in my opinion, if not the worst thing about it, it's close to it.
No, I think
for
it
me,
is. Yeah.
it was.
No, I think it is. And I've said this before, the overdoses are so sad, but honestly, what's even worse is when, somebody rides this for 40 or 50 years. I mean, I can't tell you how many times you'd be somewhere picking up and there was a guy 75, in the hallway picking up a couple of bags, and you're just going, good Lord, and again, you sort of start to accept the reality of who and what you are. I remember thinking to myself that, I was going to be 70 or 80 shooting dope.
Yep.
I just, and it wasn't something I wanted. I promise you, I was not happy about it or anything else, but it was killing me,
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, Angel Wing says, I had an ex I was trying to save, had so many demons. It was sad. An Alaskan native, they seriously can't handle alcohol. Yep, there is something to that. At all, I'm just saying, I kept him off crack, but he went from one to another. I've had people email me and say, "Man, you can't say things like that." You absolutely can.
Yes, you can.
We're not saying anything cold-hearted. This is a medical fact. It really is. They lack a certain enzyme that makes, that alcohol react just a completely different way. And it's so much more dangerous for them. There's just a propensity for not just, addiction, but unbelievable abuse, where they just, drink to excess and blackouts. Again, we're talking the very final stages, where it's terrifying. They're aggravated behavior nonstop. Right. They're always defensive because everything that somebody says, starts to feel like this person's trying to make me get sick.
Yeah.
Right. This person is going to try to make me go without booze today. And it almost becomes personal, because as we've said so many times, that drug becomes your best friend. Whether you consciously think about it in those terms or not, trust and believe it's your best friend. And more often than not, it's your only friend, because the people that you really, that used to care about you, they text you a couple of times, a month, but you don't call them back,
Right.
or if you do, you see them for really brief periods of time. And yeah, it's just,
It's yeah, and that's a good point to hit there too, because you know why would we think that that's any different than any other kind of disease that we talk about that we're predisposed to because of our ethnicity?
right.
African Americans are more susceptible to heart problems. We know this,
That's a fact.
and
Yep.
and so just because we said Indians or Native Americans, I'm not sure.
Yep. Native.
Yeah, and those that for them, it's alcohol is a problem. That's a known thing that's hard for them medically, because they're just predisposed for it.
Yeah,
And
no question.
it's I have a lot of family that's Native American, and matter of fact, my grandma was like I think 1/8 Navajo or something like that. So that makes me however much I haven't done the math on it or anything.
I was told there would be no math.
But she was close enough to it that you could notice it physically in her, right?
Right.
For me, there's no way. I'm white. And, he looks like I ain't been in the sun for 12 years, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I don't.
No chance of skin cancer. That's a good thing.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but
that's a good thing.
but there are certain things that our ethnic thing brings to the table,
Absolutely.
and that's just one of them. And
There are cultures too where it's really kind of a great point, because there are cultures where drugs or alcohol are treated really differently, and for that reason there is there's an element of environment. Still happens here. If somebody comes from a family where there's 1 to 2 people abusing drugs or alcohol, the odds of them getting addicted are astronomical. And we're not, you read into that whatever you want, whether it's nature or nurture or whatever the case is, but it seems to happen a lot. I have always believed that there is a pretty strong genetic component, right?
right.
And I think eventually they're probably going to isolate exactly what that component is, right? They're going to figure out, what it is that we lack or what we have too much of, or whatever the case may be. But we're definitely a little bit different.
I definitely agree with that.
Aragon, Irish and Native Americans cannot drink. Well, all right then. You know what? There are certain groups of people, as my partner was saying, that really
They struggle with it.
time. Yeah, they struggle with it, and yeah, and at one time or another, I think almost everybody took a turn at it. Truthfully, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, there was
Yeah.
one thing or the other. There's and right now we're really going through it here. Right, this is as bad as it's ever been, people. I mean, the number of as we said yesterday, it is a mathematical improbability that you do not know someone right now who is abusing opiates.
Yep. Yep.
It's just
True
there's
story.
too many people doing it right now that there's just no chance that I mean, I shouldn't say no chance. It is an outside chance, right? It is really, really odd.
What are you giving
You know
us
what I
money
want
for on your
birthday?
birthday? What the
A
heck?
giant Vegemite kiss from the captain.
Uh-oh.
Thank you for all the birthday wishes. And a happy birthday, Chi Chi. There
Yeah.
will be no Vegemite.
And
Probably.
let me say this too. You mentioned the candy corn earlier. I
Yes.
believe, if I remember right, that's what actually brought on the Vegemite conversation. Was you talking
It
talking about
did start,
yeah,
with candy
with
corn.
the candy corn thing?
But see, candy corn tastes awesome. And
Yes.
Vegemite tastes like a gym sock.
I would go further than that. But
Yeah, honestly, it probably does go. I'm keeping it PG, but it
Exactly.
really is super foul stuff.
it's like
Okay, so finish it. So let me just knock this out, because then we can sort of celebrate 2 birthdays. And
I think Steve's on the line too. If you
oh,
want,
good. And I'm glad Steve's on the line. It's perfect.
I'm
And then a
gonna
little inside baseball as well, because I think this is a good time for it.
unmute him.
You also, go ahead.
I'm gonna unmute him just so you know.
Okay. Yeah. Irritability. You're going to see almost everything irritates people. When you're in the final stages, some of the people who are most patient, nothing rattled them, right? Well, that just gets blown out of the water. When you're in the final stages, everything, irritates you. And it's just, it's so noticeable. It really is. And by then, I'm telling you, people, this is this is really getting to the ugly stage of the addiction, right? This is when, you know, this is dangerous stuff. They're doing enough dope that, the odds are not in their favor. They're really not, with everything that's going on the street. Right. Then depression is going to be setting in almost all the time. The only time the addict is not going to be depressed is right after he depresses the plunger, right? Or snorts or drinks or whatever that, the getting the drug into their system, that honeymoon period for maybe 45 minutes to an hour right after you fix, where you're not quite worried about the next one yet, right? And you're just sort of sitting there floating and life feels good. And that is what Mark was saying. You spend the rest of your life chasing that 1 hour. And it can cost you $150 for that, brief period of time. And, they start doing way too much because you keep trying to, push it farther and farther. And today, people, you try to do too much and it's over. Like, it really has gotten to the point where it is that ugly. And then finally, you're going to have apathy and anhedonia, right? Apathy, just not caring about anything, right? And anhedonia is the inability to take pleasure in anything, right? And it sounds almost crazy, right? But if you've ever known somebody really, deep in the life, you will see just the nicest scenes, the things with their kids or whatever, stuff that used to, be the most important stuff in the world to them. And all of a sudden it's nothing. It's just gone. And that's, by the time anhedonia is there, people, if you don't intervene,
it's bad.
You stand an excellent chance of losing them, and not always even to to just an overdose. But as anhedonia starts to sit in, and you literally cannot feel good, right?
Yep.
That ability to muster any chemical at all to bring on that feeling of well-being is never going to happen, right? So at that point, very often bad things happen, and we don't use those words on here for obvious reasons, but it threatens the individual's life.
It's a real thing, though, like you just said.
It is a real thing. It's at that point, it's about as scary as it gets. It really is. So before I turn Steve loose on a really good joke, I want to do a little inside baseball, because you know what, people, 1 year ago today, it was a fairly new channel, right? We had, if I'm not mistaken, I went back and watched a little bit of this, and I believe that Mark and I had just monetized. I think that the channel it was about 66 or 67 or something days in. We got off to a really good start. Yeah. And the hard part is usually getting that 4,000 hours, and we didn't do that. You guys did that. The crew just went. I mean, if we did a live feed, the crew was on there, no one was hanging up, and then they would stop and then watch it again as soon as it posted. I mean, we had a lot of support. But at that time last year, we had a little under 1,400 crew members on the boat, and closing in on that 4,000 hours. And now we are at, I can't remember, 29,000 hours, something like that. It works out to be a ludicrous amount of time. If you take it in 24-hour a day increments, it's years. So a lot has happened. And we've, as I say, we almost doubled the size of the crew. And it's not, again, people, it's not to spike the football or do any of that. It's to thank you people for how far you have brought this boat in the last 365 days. And you put up with the both of us screwing up really bad once, right, around the holidays, making some decisions that did not benefit the boat. Right. And and then after that, we just needed a vacation.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happens. Honestly.
Yeah, and I'm sticking to that. I don't remember saying anything other than the fact that I was taking a short break and I'd be right back.
Yeah. I think we both were there.
Like that.
Yeah, it was.
And Steve was there for every single step of the way. Steve's been there since day one. Very first show. Steve, how are you?
Back at you, Fiona. We love you for sure.
Blue Dazzle Bug. It is not anhedonia. It is anhedonia. Like, I believe, I have no idea how to spell it. It's anhedonia. The hedonia, I believe, has a Y in it. A-N. I don't know. Speak that bad thing into your Google. Anhedonia. Right? They'll spell it out for you very shortly. Anhedonia. The inability to feel pleasure. Go ahead.
I was just going to make sure Steve could hear us. Hey, Steve, can you hear us? Steve, are you there, buddy? I don't. His
Turn
mic.
off that mute button.
Yeah, he's unmuted. His mic just isn't moving. So,
Okay.
we got.
And
We got.
Fiona said, "I am so incredibly proud of both of you, you and me."
Yeah.
That's
Hello?
very nice. We really appreciate that.
Who's there? Who we got?
This is Kyle Clark.
Hey, Kyle.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness!
Yep. We got Kyle. I was like gonna say I just brought him in too. Hey, what's up, Kyle?
How are ya?
Tommy, my man.
How you doing?
How are you, brother?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. We're having a good time. I think we got a much season 2 has got a whole new vibe. It's a beautiful thing. How are you though? That's the question.
Well, got a
Are you living
promotion. I run 3 stores now at my job.
Good for
Awesome.
you.
Awesome, man. That's
So
that's cool. What
That's
gotta-
really cool.
what
Good for you.
what drug or alcohol did you fight? Or what didn't you, right? Is that a better question?
well, my I was all about mezcal and whiskey.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's some video out there too. You know, like the very first time we did a call-in show.
Well, I
I
was
think
in San Antonio.
you were in San Antonio, and he had a live camera basically on him, and he was doing a broadcast on Facebook and scaring the heck out of me. And we got on the phone and sort of spent a decent amount of time talking. But yeah, that was a mezcal evening, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, it definitely was. You saved my life.
You know what? I don't know if I think you probably saved your own life, but I'm really happy that we were together that night, because I think
No,
that
without you, dude, I promise. Like I've came a long way. No, also have a drink every now and then,
yeah.
but it's not like it was. Like
It's
nowhere
not
close.
it's not every day of the week drinking.
No,
the
it's
blackout.
like
Good
a
for you.
Sunday. Beer with football. Like today, I'll admit it. I had a drink today.
Yeah, we're not mad at you. We're
Yeah,
not mad at you at all. We're we.
but I
from
went
day
from
one,
from a handle of vodka or whiskey a day for 15 years.
Ugh, that's just abusive. You know how hard that is on your body.
Yeah, I got alcoholic gastritis because
Yeah, just brutal.
Yeah.
How is your boy doing?
so he is now in Indiana.
Okay,
So I actually just got off the phone with him.
very cool.
I pick him up. I'm either gonna drive up there or fly up there for Thanksgiving break. So I have him that whole week.
Nice.
I rotate holidays, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Even
awesome
though-
though.
Even though, I get them every summer. I'm not gonna rotate summers. I don't care. Ain't gonna happen.
That's the
That's
spirit.
that's my time.
Right.
But
I think
yeah,
Vice says it best here. We're proud of you. 100%.
Yeah.
That's difficult, man. And for you to be
Absolutely.
where you're at now is just so awesome.
It's also really good to hear about work and everything else,
yeah,
man.
I was going to say
Yeah,
that.
I got some bad things happening. So my mom was diagnosed with the macular how do you say
Degeneration,
it? Yeah, that
macular
yeah.
degeneration,
and heart failure.
Yeah.
So
and heart failure. I'm so sorry, man.
So yeah, I'm sitting here because I was going to move back to Florida, and they kind of put a hold on.
Hold on that. Yeah. Well, prayers for you, man. I mean, that's hard, and if you find yourself wanting to go back doing what you're doing, please reach out.
No,
Yeah,
no.
no
I
question.
can't. If I go back to that life, I'm dead.
Yeah.
I know the feeling, brother. I know the
There's no doubt in my mind. Like
there's power in that knowledge right there.
Yeah.
There really is. There's so much power in that knowledge.
If I go back to where I will die, or
Yeah,
where
I believe
I
that.
will die.
I believe that. You scared me, and honestly, people, I don't scare easy, but
We've been scared a couple times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
and
what was ridiculous is that this one was live. It was like the way it was going on. It was like I was looking at everything that was happening through his eyes, which was
It's hard. It's hard for.
It was really a tough. It was a tough night.
It's hard. It was hard for Kyle, and I guarantee you it was just almost as hard for you because when you're states away and there's only so much you can do, it's such
This
exactly.
is like a couple days. Like we've been talking maybe for a week. When this happened, and dude,
we had been working with each other and then really talking about sobriety and a lot of things, and he had been on the boat. He's just really consistently and had been really honest, talking about what was going on. And
I was the original boat.
Yeah, correct. It was pre-boat. It was the Tommy Scoville show. It was pre-boat.
Yeah, that's when we were doing that still before we went live.
Oh, pulling it all together for real, right around that time. Yeah,
like this is before everything happened with you, and like I heard about your brother. No, not your fan club.
Yeah, we won't.
I'm talking about your health.
I appreciate that, dude. I really do.
Yeah, I'm saying that.
And happy birthday!
I saw your brother.
Oh yeah, at one of the festivals.
No. I mean, I saw what he was going through.
Oh yeah.
Let me rephrase that. Yeah, that was like, I was like, please God, no. It's like,
he's and I'll tell you something. If you missed the last couple of shows on here,
go back and watch it.
Do you remember what day of the week that was?
I could go back and look and give it to him if he wants it, but just go back.
Kyle, it's worth watching.
Oh my God!
One of the most unbelievable things that we've ever had happen on the boat. It was really, really something to watch.
It's very, and I can tell you this, being in the background, guys, that was healing for Tommy and Johnny. I promise.
No question.
It was powerful. And to see that on a personal level, like I got to see, I had a pretty decent, a different perspective than what you guys would have had, and it's all of that was real, 100% real, and it just was powerful. That's all I can say, honestly. But
that was pretty wild stuff. And people, we are going to be back. We're at the top of the hour. We are going to be back tomorrow night, same bat time, same bat channel. Between now and then, I am going to drive 5.5 hours. I'm sorry, what, Mike?
Hold on one second before you do that, okay? Brandon, we'll get you in first next show, okay? Sorry about that, guys.
No problem, Mark.
Yeah, Steve, we'll get you in too, man. Sorry, Brandon.
I promise you.
You're number one.
Going on that you need to talk to me about, reach out to me.
I kind of just added myself. I don't know.
I had to admit you. So when you click in, I have to let you in the room. So I did that. It was on me. So just guys, no matter when you call in next time, you'll be at the top of the list. Okay.
Everybody's here for everybody.
That's
right?
The name of the game.
Thing, isn't it?
Yep. Exactly.
It really is. It's a beautiful thing. It's crew's coming off a long way.
You, Brandon, you want to say hi and just bye? I know he just unmuted. That's the only reason why I said that.
I was just tapping in to say love to you guys.
Love you too, brother. Love you too, man.
Hell yeah.
Hey, stay the course.
Yep.
Stay the course.
Hey, anybody see that TCU-OU game? That's funny.
Do you want to hear something crazy?
I just throw that in there. I'm Fort Worth boy.
The last football game I saw was Peyton Manning coming back and winning the Super Bowl.
That was a good one.
I'm an old man and I have missed a lot of football.
Yeah, DeMarcus Ware said, "I'm going to win it for you."
Yep.
No, that was Von Miller that said that. My bad.
Von Miller.
I remember that.
Did not work out. It did not work out. Believe it or not, people, I'm about to load up a car and take it to put it on a ferry. So the last of what I was doing over the weekend with this yard sale stuff. My partner and I are going to caravan 2 vehicles out, put it on the ferry, come back on the other one so that they can send it out to Hawaii.
Right. So let's go ahead and end this then, man. You got to go, brother. Okay. So yeah, for sure.
Be a really long night, but I will be back in time tomorrow. You have my word.
You want a real quick one, Mark?
Okay. Have a good night, everyone.
Love you, Brandon. See you, Kyle.
Brother.
You guys have a great night.
You want a quick one, Mark?
Yeah, go for it, Steve.
Adios.
What did Yoda say when he saw himself in 4K?
I have no idea, brother. What is it?
HTML.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wah, wah, wah.
Oh, perfect. We need that sound effect.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we need sound effects like
I'll get it.
like Marf.
I can
Or
do
they'll
that. I can do that. It's
Yeah.
easy to do. I'll do that. Yeah.
Right.
We just borrow the short dude from Conan or whatever his name is.
All righty,
Alrighty,
guys.
people.
Thanks for calling in, guys. I appreciate you. Okay, we love all you
Yeah,
guys.
thank you.
Cheers.
And people,
Love you, Kimmy.
Yep, love you. Thank you. And a special birthday shout out. Second one, people. It starts feeling like we've been doing this a while. You know?
Whose birthday?
And it's Fiona and Chi are both celebrating a birthday today. So and we
Happy
did this
birthday.
a year ago. So very, very cool. We'll be back tomorrow night, same bat time, same bat channel. And yeah, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville on the other side of the glass.
Mark Wages.
No doubt, right?
Kyle Clark,
That
Kyle Clark,
is
Kyle
a
Clark.
cat in a basket. Good night, everybody. We love you.